Hi everyone, this is John Hill, a Siemens product specialist for EandM, one of your West Coast Siemens distributors. It's come to my attention that not everyone's aware of some of the great hardware and firmware upgrades that happen with version 18 of the Siemens TIA Portal. I think we should take a look at some of those, and they might be a good reason for you to upgrade to TIA Portal version 18. So first thing to start off with the 1500 family, a huge change in the hardware. We went from a single core to a dual core on everything from a 1511 all the way up to the 1516. 1517, 1518 were dual core beforehand. I think also a 1516 TF previously was a dual core. So that's really going to improve your performance, your cycle times, and you notice here it is resulting in a part number change. So the middle section here having that 03 in it, it indicates to us that that has firmware version 3.0 capability and that dual core on there. So that dual core really gives us some great things as far as speed, but we also have additional memory in all of our units across the board. So up to 100% change in program memory, up to 50% change in data memory. And we see that here, everything across the board has got that 100% memory change. So we've got far more memory in each of those. And then the program or the data memory changes a little bit based on which model we're actually looking at. Performance speeds, when you have that second core taking off the communication, it really gives us more of a uniform cycle speed across the family in a couple of different levels. We see here a small and a middle level. So that small level, we're down to 25 nanoseconds for bit processing speed and down to 6 for that middle level. Another change that happened in the hardware is the ambient temperature has changed a little bit, and this gives us pretty much the same temperature range that the I/O modules had. So if you have, a processor with I/O modules directly attached to it, you can put that in the same environment now and not have to worry about, that lower end of the temperature spectrum causing problems with the processor, but not with the I/O cards. We increased our retentive memory, doubled that in the smaller units, so that gives you, a better chance of retaining memory in the event of a power failure or some catastrophic type event that you're not looking to, you're not going to foresee that type of thing happening, and which is why we use that retentive data. And then our cycle speeds are faster, obviously, when we have more processing speed. And then with that communication being offloaded onto that second core, it gives us a lot more ability to process additional connections. New hardware this year, we had a 1514 SP come out, so we have kind of a middle of the road 1500 processor in that small ET200 SP form factor. So that's a great addition for those of you that love that small I/O form factor, that removal insertion under power with those terminal bases. And so it's a great option to take a look at if you need a little more processing power and don't want to jump up to a full size form factor processor. In addition to that, with all these new changes to the hardware, you might wonder, hey, can I still use this in my old applications? Absolutely. Siemens has been great about that for years and years, having that full spare part compatibility. If you look on the website, on the support site, it'll tell you that things are drop-in replaceable. There are some things you have to look at and be aware of when you're doing, moving from the older hardware to the new hardware and retaining an older application. But most of it is pretty straightforward and easy to do, and some of it doesn't even need any software. So that's a great one to take a look at, but for the most part, you should be covered there. The 1517 and 1518 hardware did not really change. That was already a dual core type of setup. But there are some additional features with that firmware 3.0, and so you need to move to the version 18 software to utilize that, those upgrades in the hardware across the board. Whether it's the memory or the speeds and all that, you really need to be in version 18 to fully utilize those changes. With the redundancy systems that Siemens has out, a big change that came out this year, again, a new piece of hardware, is we got a new ET200SP interface module that's capable of R1 redundancy. So for those people that have really been kind of worried about having that dual channel redundancy on their communication channel to their I/O, we can now move into those type of networks. So that gives us some additional topologies that we can use that we didn't have, available to us before. And so it just makes it a far more flexible system based on different types of architecture. In addition to that piece of hardware, we also have a new sync module this year that gives us the capability to go out to 40 kilometers. So if you're getting into tunnel applications or maybe certain types of railway applications where you need a long distance between your redundant processors, this is going to be a great option for you to take a look at. And lastly, on the 1200 side, we didn't have any major hardware changes per se, but the firmware upgrade from 4.5 to 4.6 opens up some additional memory within those modules that we can utilize. And so in some of these, it's a pretty big jump, going from 125 to 200 in that 1215. That's going to give a lot of our customers a lot more capabilities in that 1200 type of form factor. So, taking a look at these things that we just saw, hopefully this gives you a good enough reason to make the leap from your versions 15, 16, 17 and just jump all the way up to version 18. I think you'll be really happy if you do.